Hey, my name is Jonas Alexandersson. A Diablo2 rambling review. This is Diablo2 Resurrected. And saying it twice is redundant to say the least, regardless. A lot have changed. First of all, you can switch between view modes. You can zoom in to make everything look absolutely horrible. And it is actually hurts to look at this close. But you can take in all the details when you are in the new version mode. Another change you can see is that it has a full gamepad, gamepad support. Yes. This is bomb. It's a bit interesting. Seeing as back in the day, the gamepad debate pretty much pissed off so many people. Because, oh, the PC Master Race. Ooh. Oh my god. It's completely played with a keyboard and mouse. Gamepad, that's for console peasants. So anyways, it has gamepad support, and if you click on the mouse, it switches back to the original. So, another interesting thing though is that I can put the map on the left side, the right side, or big in the middle. A thing I've noticed that has changed a fair bit is before. I haven't really read any notes on what have changed, but I noticed that before, if you ran out of gold when dying, it would draw from your stash. That I haven't noticed this time around, that it actually removes. It seems like it just let. What is the wording again? Oh yes. If you drop below 0 gold, it will not take gold from your stash. That is something the game used to do before. I'm so glad it doesn't anymore. So, in that regard, aside from spamming certain words over and over again like a bad habit I cannot drop, this game is, when you're playing online, is 100% dependent on your connection. What I mean with that is once you go above, if it fluctuates, the game also fluctuates a lot. Which is really, really irritating. Also, should you somehow go over 2000 latency, you will just get automatically kicked. Which I'm not entirely sure if it is due to my connection in the first place, or due to the game servers just suddenly taking all the bandwidth, just taking everything and just cranking it up and then kicking out. While it works as intended, it has a couple of issues, to say the least. One of them is I have actually experienced crashes, where the game crashes to desktop. Yes. This game is not completely stable. And since they have so many issues with the servers as well, they have included a queue system before joining Yes. This morning, for example, when I tried to get into online, I had to wait at least 10 minutes because there were over 300 people before me in queue. Which is not really fantastic when you consider how old this game is, and the fact that not much should have changed, and I have been running it for gods and for many years on Battle.net before. So I'm not entirely sure what their excuses for this incompetency is. Oh. Yeah, but yeah, that aside, it is a great game per se. You are running around and you're running a lot. And you are running through the levels and killing things as fast as possible and opening all the chests you can get a hold of and collecting all the interesting loot that is dropped by the enemies. In this regard, they added this brilliant feature of if you're close enough to gold, you can pick it up. There is also two different settings for the loot table. One is one is the classic, and the other one is the modern one. I don't know exactly what the difference is, because I have never really looked into the loot in the first place. However, it's a thing to note. So, another couple of things they have fixed as well is, for example, there is a resolution scale, there is a sharpening filter, can calibrate screen location, there's a frame rate cap, a graphic preset, there's also some legacy options. That enable parallax scrolling, blend shadows. Right, but we then hit G. Ooh, look at this effect. Oh yeah, parallax. I will. Yeah. This is only for die-hard fanatics. If you want to play it in the legacy mode, I suggest you just download the original. It looks better and runs better. So, as you can see here, this gameplay is taken directly from normal. Isn't everything is normal, everything is like it's intended to be. In fact, not much have changed. And for those that don't know what Diablo is all about, it's about chasing Diablo and his brothers throughout the world, hunting them down and murdering them one by one, banishing them back to the hell they came from by doing quests for questionable people in town and murdering monsters of all shapes and sizes, while progressively get stronger and stronger by collecting experience points and better loot. and killing enemies with names in order to hope they drop better loot. And opening chests, and so a friend of mine complained once that he just found the whole experience a bit boring because he felt it was like running a marathon. Essentially, we're just running and running and running and running. And yes, it's true. It's all about running. You run left, you run right, you run up and down. Which is, and watch the numbers grow. Min-maxing to hell and back, and once you have completed the normal difficulty, you gain access to the next difficulty, and after that you get to the next difficulty, which increases stats and spices up the gameplay a little bit. However, at its base, it is about running around, clicking on enemies, then clicking on skills, to click and use the skills on enemies, and watch enemies die. While fighting hordes of Diablo's minions. And getting your connection interrupted. Which I'm not entirely sure if it is the game or my connection that does it. Yes, now you have seen it firsthand. That is one of the major issues. Is the experience lacks a. I do not believe there's any sort of lag compensation. Because this is old school. Naturally, when playing online, you can no longer. You cannot type /players and set it to 8. That can be done in single player only, but the options is still there. So when it comes to the gameplay itself and the gamepad support, it works really well. You can hold down the left trigger and then you have 6 skill bars, and if you don't, you also have 6. So if you hold down left trigger and press A, I can open up my tome portal. Or, use A to just attack. That also affects the skill tree. Of course, there's one bit irritating thing though, is that you need to hold, if you're using a gamepad, you have to hold down the button until the bar fills in order to do the choice. However, you can switch between all of these things with the D-pad. But let's face it, when you're gonna go into the character menu, you might as well just... You can just do the classic. That's even... For example, I have... so, since this is Amazon, you have bow and crossbow, and you have javelins and passive. Oh, of course, one of the popular ones is, you know, throwing spears and watching the enemies die from very far away. Naturally, there are many classes to pick from. You have the Barbarian, who is strong. You have the Necromancer that uses undead minions. You have the... and of course you have the Sorceress, who uses... who simply uses a lot of... who just uses a lot of fancy magic like teleportation and the ability to throw ice and lightning. Or the druid, who just summons a whole lot of animals, or a tornado, or ability to run while meteors fall behind his footsteps. There's also the paladin that just hits many times really, really hard. And yes, you can throw away your spears, literally. That's the only challenge with this sort of spear build. It might be able to fix that if you stop throwing spears before it's too late. Also, different enemies have different things they do. Like the Carvers, the fairly basic gnome in the early game, or the Fallen as this version is called. They just run around until they tend to get scared very easily. Or you have the zombies that only does one thing. But they do it really, really well. Or from Diablo, that essentially just spams different types of magic. So overall, it's Diablo. You run through the levels. Find an optimal way to loot. Find optimal loot. Then you take said loot, make yourself better, so you can murder more things to get more loot. Until you complete the rather fun story that is fully voice acted, with some splendidly looking cutscenes.
Not here. Hi there, I'm Charcy.
And decent voice acting. There isn't much more I can really say about it, because it's Diablo. What you see here on the screen is the gameplay loop, really. And if that is not to your liking, then don't get the game. But yeah, I have an elective cast of characters. Of course, if you feel like it, you can make a lobby where you can talk to people for better or worse. And there's no ladder yet, for better or worse. And you can, of course, join a game. Or you can, create a game with a password, name and description, where you can adjust player count, level difference, item spacing. Item spacing. So, yeah. It's Diablo. They made the Amazon look manly. That was a bit disappointing, really. The Amazon. Anyways, I'm signing out, and you can find me on Patreon, social media links down below. And I also have some t-shirts. Because I can. Bye.